Well, hello there. Welcome to another J&J Tabletop video. My name is Jake, and today I am joined with Irish folk dancer Lee from youtube.com/@thiscrits.
You can't help yourself. You can't help yourself.
I really can't. Today is a video topic that's kind of bittersweet, right? Like, I'm happy for Chris Perkins, who has announced that he's retiring from Dungeons and Dragons in a tweet, I guess, a post that you could call it, from Blue Sky. And it reads like this. Today, I retire from Wizards of the Coast after 28 years. With D&D's 50th anniversary wrapping up and the revised rulebooks doing gangbusters, this is the perfect fairy tale ending for me. I can't wait to enjoy D&D purely as a fan again, knowing the game is in good hands. See you in the Feywild. So first, I know Josh and I have talked about this a little bit off camera. To Chris Perkins, we just first want to say thank you for all of the hard work and dedication that you've poured into this wonderful hobby and this game that we all enjoy, especially if you clicked on the video, he's influenced your life too. You have been involved in countless hours of entertainment for so many people across multiple editions of Dungeons and Dragons, as well as other game systems, personally notably for me, Star Wars Saga Edition. And one of my first 5th edition dungeon masters fell in love with being a dungeon master because he watched Acquisitions Incorporated, which is part of why Chris Perkins is one of the more recognizable faces, at least in the early life cycle of 5th edition, because he was a dungeon master for Acquisitions Inc., which started back in 2008 with the 4th edition of D&D, but then eventually switched over to 5e. And also, he was the dungeon master for the live show on Twitch, Dice Camera Action, and he also guest starred on Critical Role twice. So there's a lot of FaceTime in many ways, and it's probably more Jeremy Crawford now, but I think it's very fair to say he's at least one of the faces of Dungeons and Dragons.
He's one of the D's in D&D,
yeah,
if you will.
That's exactly. In the 2014 core rulebooks, on the Player's Handbook, he is given an editing credit along with Michelle Carter, Chris Sims, and Scott Fitzgerald Gray. On the Dungeon Master's Guide, he is the DMG lead along with Jeremy Crawford and James Wyatt. And then on the Monster Manual, he is the sole lead designer. And then in the 2024 core rulebooks, he is the first designer listed along with Ben Petrozor, F. Wesley Schneider, Ray Wininger, and James Wyatt. The Dungeon Master's Guide, he's the lead designer again along with James Wyatt. And then in the Monster Manual, is listed as a designer along with Mackenzie DeArmas and Ben Petrozor. And then listen to these adventures for 5th edition that he is credited with. He's got the lead designer credit for Curse of Strahd, Storm King's Thunder, Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage. He's listed as the adventure designer for Dragon of Icespire Peak, which, in my opinion, is by far the best starter essentials guide, the best way to introduce your players to Dungeons and Dragons. And then he's also listed as the story creator and lead writer for the Icewind Dale Rime of the Frost Maiden. So he's had his hand in so many of just some of the most iconic parts about 5th edition.
The thing with Chris Perkins, at least for me, I'm not someone enamored with names, faces, famous people. It doesn't affect me. If Critical Role is not the face of D&D, Chris Perkins is the face of D&D, right? At least, back when D&D 5th edition came out, it was the face of it all for me. Curse of Strahd is a special one for me because I have read that book 3-4 times over, prepared for DMing it multiple times, killed 2 parties in the Death House, trying to get them into the actual campaign, never actually gotten to run the campaign myself, and now finally getting to play it with this wonderful man over here that you can see on your screen for the first time since 2014, but the things that are attributed to him are probably some of the best memories and some of the best works that Wizards of the Coast have put out at least in the last 15 years. I think Curse of Strahd, like you said, Dragons of Icespire Peak, such good modules, such good writing. I think, realistically speaking, I can't say much about the more recent addition to the 2024 with the new starter edition or the new starter adventure and such like that. I haven't actually gotten a chance to really dive deep into it. But at least for me, yeah, I guess that's fair.
Why release that with the core books? Wait the next year.
That's fair. But at least for me, what I've seen of Chris Perkins' work has been some of my favorite out of everything in the last 15 years of Wizards. So there's been things I don't like that they've released too. So I'm not just, I'm not going to talk about that. But the things that have been released, I have enjoyed that have his name on them. So
yeah, and that's fair. I mean, I think in a lot of ways, game design, rule design, adventure design, it's a different kind of art, and if it's rare when someone likes every piece of art someone makes, even if it's your mom and you got like your macaroni sculptures and things.
It's interesting because you're right. Like, I always thought of Chris Perkins as kind of like a storyteller. That's who I viewed him. It may or may not be true, but that's how I saw him, at least in my mind's eye. Not as a game creator or like a rules creator, right? With the Curse of Strahd stuff. I think he did a lot of writing prior to ever becoming a bigwig at Wizards of the Coast. I thought of him as kind of like as the pinnacle of DM for a long time. Everyone praised Matt Mercer for everything because he's so good at it, but I kind of, Chris Perkins is right there with him in my mind, right? So I don't really, I never really thought about him as a game designer as much as I thought about him as a storyteller.
I think a lot of the resources that he was the lead designer or lead on in those projects is like the Dungeon Master's Guide, which is going to help prepare you to tell stories together.
Yeah.
I feel like that's spot on with the way he's contributed to this game, and it's the very soul of Dungeons and Dragons itself is collaborative storytelling. You just have all these rules that you kind of use to see what happens. So, I mean, if you're gonna just talk about like what might be next for Chris Perkins, from the official Dungeons and Dragons Instagram account, they say, "We can't thank Chris enough for the decades of work he's poured into Wizards of the Coast, as D&D would not be what it is today without his numerous contributions. While we are incredibly sad to see him go, we welcome him at our game any day. While at D&D, Chris mentored the next generation of leaders who are stepping up as he moves on to enjoy his retirement. D&D is in good hands with the team." For me, on a personal note, regardless of whether you like his style or whatever projects he's been in, but the fact that they took the time to mention that he mentored a next generation, that's just really cool for me. Like I've heard a quote, honestly, I don't know who said it, but one of my favorite quotes is, "Success without a successor is a failure." And it sounds like he addressed that directly. And I personally just love that because this game is about relationships and memories. And I like to see that that's at least at the heart of what he's done. I think one question I think a lot of people may be asking, like, was this like a sudden decision? Like, is there like some kind of hidden cover up going on or conspiracy or drama? And it's like, well, apparently he was mentoring people, which doesn't sound like, that sounds like a pretty deliberate thing, like I don't think this came out of the blue. He is 57 years old, so that is technically like an earlier age to retire. Like, I don't know if he's a wealthy man. If he is, good for him. But he's stepping back and he just wants to enjoy Dungeons and Dragons for the game that it is. And I kind of just get the sense that I wouldn't be surprised if like we saw him like crop up with like another company, maybe as like a consultant, or like, hey, this is an adventure written by Chris Perkins, and like he's just a little bit more free to kind of contribute to the community as a whole. But I also wouldn't be surprised if he's just like, all right, I'm done. And you just won't really hear from him.
It's funny. That's exactly what I think is going to happen. A lot of these creative people that I find when they retire, they find other outlets for their creativity. And a lot of them, do not even contractor, but contributor roles to different things. Just little tidbits here and there. All of a sudden we get, oh, there's a new adventure module, and Chris Perkins helped write it, Yep. Who knows? He could just be sipping pina coladas down in Hawaii or something. I don't know. I think you mentioned earlier about his interview way back when, where he said he's just going to take a step back and say, you know what? I'm just going to walk off into the sunset and that'll be it, right?
Yeah, I've heard him say that on a podcast before. So, which, I mean, good for him. Like if he's done his bit for king and country, like he can enjoy his retirement.
For the peace of the kingdom.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people are probably wondering, like, how is this going to affect Dungeons and Dragons? Like,
everyone run! It's on fire! Panic!
Yes, I think a lot of people feel that way, right? Because so the update I don't know details about it. I mean, I think there are sales numbers that could support that it's doing very well, right? We just released 2 videos on the channel. I made 6 things I like about 2024 D&D and 6 things I like about 2014 D&D, and everybody seems to want to talk about all the things and how I'm wrong for liking things about 2014. But spoiler alert, this is a game, so it's just like my opinion, man.
I don't know. I think you're wrong generally, but you know,
it's perfectly fine. But either way, I think it's fair to say that there is a passionate response to 5.24, or as many may phrase it as 5.2 far, right? You either love it or you hate it. It's one of those things. It's like, I kind of just think that we've sort of seen this just drifting in a direction, and I just don't really think the products are going to change that much. I feel like the decision making has kind of just been shifting into that next generation. Now, is that why he decided to be like, okay, I'm good, I like old school things too, and I'm going to do my own thing?
Yeah.
Maybe.
You mentioned earlier that he seems to have he's slowly taking a farther and further back step in the company, and the last things he's worked on are the 5.2 far edition books, right? I don't know what the last module he worked on was, but it was not a recent one. It was a couple of years ago, right? I think it was, Waterdeep?
Waterdeep was there, maybe Icewind Dale.
But it does seem like he has been taking a step back, and while it might seem sudden for us because he's such a he's such a persona for D&D, it might not necessarily be sudden for them. Now, that being said, I would love to see another person with another persona come kind of fill that spot, because right now the reason everyone is so, at least I believe everyone is so kind of panic, what's going, is the number one reason companies, I believe, have trouble or like kind of a disconnect with the people that like their products or purchase their products or their core audience, right? Is because they don't have a good communication method. Chris Perkins was one of those avenues that made the audience feel like we were connected to what's happening at D&D for such a long time, right? Whether or not you think he did a good job at that, you know, that whatever, here nor there. The point is, he was a direct line for us as an audience to kind of see what was going behind the scenes at Wizards of the Coast and kind of trust that they were going in the right direction. Same thing as like Jeremy Crawford. I haven't seen much of him recently though.
Well, we saw Jeremy Crawford in most of the videos that the hype videos that really didn't tell you much about each core rule book that was coming out. And Chris Perkins was just in the Dungeon Master's Guide one. And I thought that was very, to me, it just felt noticeable. I was like, I wonder what he's doing. Like, is he working on a big project? And apparently that big project is probably retirement. But I do feel like there is a little bit of a void in who that face is. Jeremy Crawford probably is the one you'd point to now. But I do think, what do the kids say? He doesn't quite have the Riz. Did I use that? Did I say that right?
Listen, man, I'm too old to understand what the hell you just said, okay? Yeah. I don't even understand what you're saying. I know you like to joke about me being younger and you being older, but you just took a reference that's like probably 15 years younger than I am, okay?
Let me know if I used it properly in the comment section.
What the heck's a Riz?
It's short for charisma. I think it's short for charisma.
Oh, wait, yeah, I think that is what it is.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So to say, I feel
back in my day.
Yeah, exactly. If I were to stat out Jeremy Crawford and Chris Perkins, I would give Chris Perkins a higher charisma score.
Yes, 100%.
I do think he's generally much more well received. Anyways, with that being said, is it a weird take to think that I don't really think the game or the products are gonna change all that much?
Yeah, I people panicking that the game is going to shift into something is kind of, in my mind, completely ridiculous. Because, to be frank, my name is Lee, but if I'm going to be frank for a second, the game's kind of already shifted. Hate to break it to you. If it's going to shift again because he left, that may be a good thing. Who knows, right? All we know is where we've gone to thus far and where it was. So I think that shift people are worried about kind of already occurred. And, we don't know why he left, probably retiring, whatever. But Wizards of the Coast have been going in this direction for a decent amount of time now. Maybe the past 5 years, it's been just kind of slowly moving in this direction. And I don't think Perkins was going to stop that.
Yeah, I guess the question you could ask then is like, how much of these changes and shifts in like philosophy were because of him, and was he an obstacle? Maybe like, is this like, oh, we're this is the door, here's your watch, you're retired, or you know, it would be cool to know exactly what happened. But at the end of the day, also that's just kind of needless gossip. Chris Perkins, again, I just want to say thank you for your contributions to the game. Obviously, you have been. I don't think it's hyperbole to say that 5e and Dungeons and Dragons does not succeed without his contributions and influence on the game. I think that's very fair to say. And from the outside looking in, it does kind of seem like he's been taking steps backward. I want to know what you think. Is this going to change the game, or have we kind of already been seeing this change? Let us know in the comment section. And don't forget to go to youtube.com/@thiscrits and subscribe to this Irish folk dancer here. He's going to play a dance part in his next playthrough. I know it. Doing the Irish jig.
Well, now you're just lying to people. It's fake news.
So thank you so much for watching. Tell us maybe a favorite Chris Perkins story in the comment section below. And don't forget to be kind to one another, even if you disagree, because kindness makes the world better. Thank you very much. Take care, everybody.